Hi and welcome to the first edition of Greg Interviews. Today I'm with Ian Powell, who has been a missionary in Thailand for a number of years. He's come back to Australia for about a year now, and he's going back to Thailand in January. So Ian, what was it like in Thailand for those years?
What was it like in Thailand? It was very much an amazing experience. I mean, you've got to learn a different culture. You're uprooting your family from the comforts of their own country and culture to a different culture. So the kids had to go through it all. I have 4 boys, and so they each had to tackle the whole cultural thing in different ways. But overall, I mean, it was just a great place to be, a great people group. I mean, the Thai people are an amazing people and loving people. They're very family orientated. It sort of reminded me a lot like what Australia used to be like years ago, you know, where everything was based around family values. The family sat together and ate. The family sat together and talked and you know, had story times and stuff like that. That's how the Thai people are, and unfortunately, Australian culture, we've lost that. So, just the environments of Thailand are an amazing adventure.
So and the people are very nice?
I mean, they call it the land of smiles.
Because sometimes when you go to somewhere, the people are like, ooh, stranger, tourist or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they call it the land of smiles, and I think, you know, they hit that on the head, the nail on the head with that, because it is. They're very much a nice people. They're very. It's really funny. They're very humble in their approach. Get them on the road, it's a little different. When they're in their cars behind the wheel, they just want to get to where they want to go. But no, as a people, I mean, they're just a beautiful people, and they're very approachable, and they will more than likely approach you. I mean, it's very common. You'll go somewhere, they want to come and talk. They want to know about your culture. They want to practice their English. So you know, it's as people, as Thai people, they're just an amazing people.
And what about the politics over there? Are they very open to Christians and missionaries, whatever?
Yeah, well, they were. There was a lot of. It was accepted quite well in Thailand. We were there 6.5 years, so. You know, it was very much free religion, do whatever you want to do sort of attitude with belief systems. The king was really open to it. In fact, the king, I don't think it was the last existing king, I think it was the king before, but I could be wrong. He actually was one that welcomed all religions into Thailand, even though it's a Buddhist nation. He was, say, freedom of religion. So... but now, as a lot of people may be aware, the King of Thailand passed away last year, and so things are a little different now. Military rule, it's Christianity's still there, obviously, and it's still, there's a lot of missionaries, there's a lot of Christian works going on in Thailand. However, they are making it a lot harder to access Thailand in a missionary status, you know, just making it complicated to get visas and foundations running and all this kind of stuff. So it does get a little bit harder now, and it gets expensive. It is expensive to get visas and so forth. But yeah, I mean, the gospel's still getting distributed around Thailand.
And what about the living conditions? I've never been to Thailand, so I don't know, and you see tourist things that make it look good. But I've also heard there's slums, so there's probably a wide scope. Probably like most countries, you get the well-off people and the not so well-off. When you're a missionary, what part of that are you on? What's it like living there?
Living conditions, for a missionary to go over there, look, prices are cheap. Obviously compared to Australia, but when you're not on a salary and you're over there on funds and sponsorship, it can get quite hard. Living conditions around the area, I mean, where we're situated, you have literally slum villages you have sort of what you would probably class as a middle class, society, where they're normal houses like you'd have in here in Windang and Wirrala and stuff like that. And then you have the big city sort of areas that are the big high-rise condos and so forth. And so you have got a lot of the different styles. Where we actually lived and where we're going back to was sort of that middle class sort of, where they're just an average sort of house that you can get here. However, right over the wall is like a village. Most Thais these days, it's really quite bizarre. You sort of look around, and you can even go in some of these slum villages now, and you're looking in these little shacks. Some of them are just like sheets of corrugated iron, just whacked up with a few bits of timber, and then right next door is a mansion. You're just going, that must be the village leader. But it's look, poverty's there. Poverty's everywhere. I just don't think it's as bad and hear my heart when I say this. I don't think it's as bad as what everyone makes out of. There is some really, really devastating sort of poor slum areas. But you know what? The Thai people, you look at them and they're happy because they've got the family value factor. And, all the families live together. They all help each other. And so, they might have these little houses, but they're just, as long as they're together, that's where their happiness is. But obviously, you do want to be in a safer environment. You want to be in a more safer environment, away from germs and so forth. But I'm going off track and I'm losing it, and I really don't know what I'm talking about.
But you mentioned it can be hard without sponsorship. So obviously there's no government assistance like we have Centrelink in Australia. So you don't get anything from anyone unless people are sending you money, I guess. So has that worked out all right? You've been well off, or like my wife and I, we had to spend a few months on sweet corn on toast. Have you had hard times?
Definitely. I mean, we had our moments. I mean, we've never ever had enough sponsorship, but in saying that too, I mean, God's never let us down. I mean, we had, in 6.5 years, we had probably 2 times that I can recall where we absolutely had nothing. And it was just like, what are we going to do? Is it just going to be bread and butter? 2-minute noodles, whatever it's going to take. And in both those cases, we just got together as a family and prayed and just said, well, God, we're here looking after your work, looking after your people. And we always had this vow, I suppose you could call it. And my wife was the one that sort of came up with it. And it was, well, God, we'll take care of your kids as long as you take care of ours,
Sounds good.
And so in both those stages that I remember not having anything, God brought people around just random. Well, I'll share one quick story. Had no food. It was our first year there. We had no food in the house or anything. And at the time, my nephew was living up the road. He was there working as an English teacher. And he was just living up the road, and he decided he wanted to move into the city to be closer to work. And he had no idea of our situation. He wasn't even a Christian. And he just randomly popped into our house with boxes of food and fruit and vegetables, you name it, and just said, I'm moving to the city. I can't take this with me. I'd rather just buy it all new again when I get down to the city. So here you go. And I just remember saying to him, hey, dude, open our fridge. And he opened the fridge and there's nothing there, and he's like, whoa! Like, God just used you, man. So, and that happened twice. And so, I mean, it's not easy, because what a lot of people don't realise is, and this is not a plea to go, feel sorry for us and donate, but what people don't understand when it comes to missions is there's so many expenses. You've got the expenses of visas, and that's every year. You've got the expenses of schooling, and schooling over there, I mean, if you want to get into it, which we could never get into because it was just so expensive, it's almost $5,000 a child. And when you've got 4 children, it's just like, well, blow that. not going to come up with that much money that quick, 20 grand. You've also got, your expenses like electricity, rents and stuff like that. And rentals, for housing, you're talking probably maybe $500 a month, which is a lot cheaper here. But when you think of all the added expenses, vehicles, petrols.
And if you're not working, because you're not able to work in Thailand.
No, well, you can, but then if you want to work, then you're upping the prices of your visas. You have to be able to jump through all these hoops to get the approvals. But then if you're doing that, well, then you're defeating the purpose of going there in the first place, which is doing, the ministry, of caring for the people, because you're 100%, your mind would be on work.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it really defeats that purpose of when your whole heart is to go over and train these young people so that they can get work, so they're not going to get sucked into the sex industry or the drug industry. And so, ministry really takes 100% of your time. And you've got to have your phone on 24/7 on call, because it will ring any time of the night.
So are you expecting it to be similar this time round with a different king?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because he's not so pro-Christian, is he?
The person that's in rule now, look, the king's son's in, but he really doesn't have a say. It's more run by the military. It's a military rule. Just before, probably maybe a year before we left, we end up having curfews and all sorts of things. It was like martial law that had come in, and it was nothing to really worry about. It wasn't like, I know the media over here sometimes makes things to be pretty scary, and it wasn't that bad. They were just doing what they thought they had to do. There was a lot of political situations going on between two different parties, and so with the situation now, it is a military-run government, really, even though the king's son has the throne. I think, this guy, head of the military, I think he's got a little bit more power than what he should, to be honest. But that's politics.
So within the missionary field, I guess you're not just, how can I put it, not preaching the word to people. You're teaching them life skills. You're showing them about life. So do you know what you'll be doing this time around? Because I know you've got a few qualifications. Is there anything in particular?
Basically, the whole outlook is, like if you look at the life of Jesus modeled the things of his Father, the things that were in heaven, and he didn't just sit there and preach the things of his Father. He also did life with them, and he understood where they were at, and he tried to meet with them, like the Bible says, be all things to all men. And that's what Jesus was. He didn't sort of ridicule and judge them for the way they looked or what they did. He just loved on them. So, a lot of the stuff we do, there's going to be stuff that's the same as what we've always done, which is one of the things we did before was we did a lot of work with foreigners, and we were able to do a great deal through that. Just help them. A lot of them had, drug and alcohol issues. So we were able to just do life with them. A lot of them became our friends. They weren't necessarily people we worked with. They were our friends. They became our family, just as Jesus did when the multitudes followed him. They were just like family, and his disciples. And so, that's the way we did it. But this time around, what we're actually focusing on is we want to target young people from, say, 17 to 21. And we're not limiting it. So, there will be other age brackets there. But one of the things we're getting involved in, it's a ministry that's already set up, and we're just joining with them. And it's targeting youth from about 17 to 21. A lot of them still live in the orphanages. And at that age, it's when they really need to get out of the orphanage. And generally what happens is, when that happens, they usually run to either the sex trade or the drug trade because it's quick money, and they can get a lot of money really quickly. And as you know, it's not a safe environment. It's not a nice one either. And so, eventually they get either addicted to the drugs themselves, or they get locked up in jail because they get caught. And there's been so many young Thais we've met that have been put in jail for life because they've got involved in murder issues because of the drugs and stuff like that, you know. So we aim to get them, and there's a training centre that we're joining with, and basically they contact the orphanages and just say, have you got anyone in this category? And then we bring them to our training centre, and they'll be taught, it's like vocational training, so anything that's going to help them get work. So we'll help them along that area and then try to establish a place for them to get work. And we'll give them certificates and all that saying they've done these courses.
Sounds really good. To help you along the way, you've got a new CD called You and I, released quite recently, and that is available on YouTube. iTunes, sorry.
Amazon, Spotify, practically anything that's on the web.
Awesome. And there is a CD launch happening where you'll be playing live on the 18th of November at Transforming Waters Church in Wingdang, which is on the corner of Fern Street and Currajong Street at 5 p.m. That's a Saturday afternoon. And the funds from the CD are all going to basically help others.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it'll be an exciting night. There'll be a barbecue on for everyone. That's a free feed for people that come along. It'll be a great time to meet new people and maybe even see some old friends you haven't seen for a while. Hear some good music and just hear the heart of the cry of Thailand, because I mean, you know, it's whatever is raised here, it is to benefit them, and you know, for us to be able to help them, it takes funds for us to take care of our family as well as to take care of them, because if we're not in good shape, well, we can't help anybody. So and I think that's the key. To make it known for all missionaries. It's not just to make it known for us, but all missionaries that are from Australia or from wherever. I think we really need to raise awareness of what it does actually take. It doesn't just take finances. It also takes having just prayer support, having friends that understand what you're going through, that you could be able to offload when you're feeling a bit low. But there is a lot of expenses financially and in the natural. I mean, the sacrifices you have to make to do these things, you know.
So if anyone wanted to help you into the future, is there a Facebook page or a post office box address or something somewhere?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. It's under Soulbait Ministries, and I mean, there's ways you can contact us through there, or you can contact us through even our personal Facebook pages. Mine's under Ian Powell, and I also have a musicians page, which will also is linked up to iTunes and so forth. But yeah, best bet is Soulbait Ministries. We also have an email address, which is soulbaitministries@gmail.com, and we're happy to take any kind of emails. And we're also open to things like if you've got maybe you're interested in doing missions and you've got questions you want to ask and different experiences, you know, write to us, and we want to hear your story, and any advice we can give, we'd love to give it. So.
And just before we close, You and I is your second album. You also had one called Life's Highway. That will also be available on the CD launch? People could pick up the old one?
It certainly will. It'll be available. Basically, the pricing's the way we're going to do it is each CD's, it's $20 per CD, but if you want to buy two, we'll make it two for $30. And everything, like all the proceeds to this whole event is going to Thailand. So
it's a bit like making a donation and getting something for your money.
That's it. You're not just getting great music, you're helping people in Thailand. So.
And if you come along on the night, Ian will sign it for you.
Oh, jeez.
I'd like to thank you for today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming along.
Thank you very much.
All the best for the future. That's why I can't read it.
You need well, I don't think your flipping glasses will help either, because they'll be flipping all over the place. You want ones that are going to stay on.
Yeah.
We are gathered here today.
So, Ian, what was it like in Thailand for those years? Three, two, one.
3, 2. Why is it the silliness comes as soon as we go?
No.
All right.
Just don't look at each other.
Okay. What was the question again? Basically, learning other cultures is and you know what I'm saying? And 3, 2, 1.
It was nothing living in Thailand.
Sling your glasses, will you?
Yeah, they're just fogged up in the corners.
Okay. The gospel's still getting distributed around Thailand.
Yeah. I forgot the next bit.
Well, no, scratch that.
And to help you along the way, you've just released a new CD called You Are My, which is very good. And you can see it.
You and I.
You and I. And
Beep, cut.